Brooks, the Secretary of the Department of Rehabilitation in Maryland. Also, Wynnie Testamark, Director of the U.S. Virgin Islands Bureau of Corrections. And Rob Jeffries, Director, Nebraska Department of Correctional Services.
Let's give them a big round of applause. Hey folks, if you're in the back, we still got the conference going on. If you would give us the pleasure and maybe sit and convene after, but we would like to give the respect to the folks that took the time to be here. I believe that this session here can have the most impact as we deal with the issues of those leaving our facilities. And the directors and the leaders of our correctional agencies have to set the right tone. And what we have gathered today is a group of individuals have been doing that, and we are so proud that they are here to share the things that they are doing to ensure that when individuals leave their facilities, they have all the tools so they can be successful. And we also kind of mixed it up a little bit because we have the privilege of also having the executive director of the American Correctional Association, the largest correctional association in the world, and we want them to get on board so when they have their big conference, they can spread the word that some good things are happening in Washington, D.C. as it relates to returning citizens. So what I would like to do is give each panel about 3 minutes to introduce themselves and say something that they proud of their agencies, their respective agencies, and I may have some follow-up questions as I listen. I noticed my good friend from the Virgin Islands, she's always nervous, but she has an amazing story, but it's okay, Wynnie. But in fact, I'll start with Rob. Rob, why don't you introduce yourself so you can make Wynnie relax a little bit?
Hi, I'm Wynnie from the Virgin Islands. So, good afternoon, everyone. Rob Jeffries. I am currently in the state of Nebraska. I've been there all of 1 year, right? Previously, I've been in Illinois Department of Corrections. I ran that agency for about 4 years over there. Before that, I was in Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction for about 23 years, with a little stint of about 4 years, well, about 3.5 years down here at the Department of Justice with the National Institute of Corrections. And I give you that breadth of my career just to talk about some of the reform as we move forward through some questions about how impactful it is to be involved across the nation on the work that you guys are doing in this room. And there's a lot of work being done across this nation, and we'll get into some of those comments later. But this is my thing, this is my passion, and I'm glad to be part of this discussion. And I'm also glad to share some of the work that we've been able to do in the state of Nebraska, Illinois, and Ohio as well too.
He also doubled back that he's also the president of the Correctional Leadership Association, and that group encompasses all the commissioners, directors, and secretary of corrections. So he has a voice that he can take back with some of the things that are being shared today, so he can ask his colleagues to make sure that they are doing the right thing as it relates to returning citizens. So,
yeah, that's what I said.
All right. All right, Wynnie, why don't we hear from the islands?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure.
Is your mic on, Wynnie? It's on. Okay, y'all can hear.
No, speak loud. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Hailing from the United States Virgin Islands, Albert Bryan Jr., Governor. Who am I? I'm Wynnie Testamark. I've been there, the director for the agency since February 11, 2019. Previous to that, I retired from Miami-Dade County Corrections, 29 years in the business. I'm also the Interstate Commissioner for the Virgin Islands for the Interstate Compact. I also own a consultant business for the past 15 years dealing with criminal justice matters. It's definitely, again, an honor to be here. We definitely are doing great things in the Virgin Islands. As we get into the conversation, we'll talk more about it. my boss, my governor. He definitely believes in second chances. He has pardoned a couple of individuals. I have one here with me today, Stephen Hyacinth, please stand up. He is definitely one individual that I met when I came into the territory in 2019, and he has definitely been a model inmate. What do you mean a model inmate, Ms. Testamark? He is one individual, since being there, he has never gotten into any trouble. He takes care of the livestock, he takes care of everything, whatever we needed. It's like when it was time for him to go, it's like, what are we gonna do now? Hyacinth is going home. But we definitely believe in second chances. In addition to that, we also hired him. It's the first for the territory to hire a returning citizen, but we believe in not just talking, but also doing. So he's the first individual that, one of three that the territory has hired, and I have hired in a correctional institution back from, as a returning citizen. So again, I look forward to the conversation. I look forward to sharing with the wonderful things that we are doing there in the Caribbean. Thank you.
All right. I happen to work closely with the U.S. Virgin Islands, so I'm proud of the great work. We do a lot of different things there because they don't have to go through all the bureaucracy of some of what, either the states or the federal government has to do. So thank you, Wynnie. Next, we'll have Mr. Robert Green.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Green. I'm the Executive Director of the American Correctional Association, the new Executive Director. Oops, sorry. I've been there for just a little bit over a year, but importantly, I've spent 39 years in the field of corrections. And please let me tell this group that reentry is at the center of corrections in this country. We are working on reentry. We're going to focus on reentry at ACA. But I want to tell you my story and what made, I think, focus so real for me. I've been in corrections, as I said, 39 years. I've worked in the sheriff's office in Maryland. I spent 16 years there, 18 years in Montgomery County, Maryland, and then my last 4 years before I joined the ACA as the Secretary of Public Safety in the state of Maryland under Governor Hogan. But that being said, the most meaningful experience for me around reentry and going home was being a correctional officer in my own community, in the sheriff's office. Reentry and going home is a real reflection of the community. And when you have individuals that you grew up with, individuals that you slept on their sofa, ran track with, played football with, spent time with their parents, and they're on one side of that door, you're on the other, and they look at you and you say, Rob, how did you get to where you are? And how did I get to where I am? Help me, and help me go home. That was where my focus on reentry, in my own community, listening to parents, loved ones, family members, where I think I committed my heart, and this is a matter of really feeds my soul, of doing more good than we do harm, and understanding that 92% of the people that all of us up here touch every day are going home. And we need to make sure that they're connected to their families. So that was a really meaningful moment for me. Two areas that I absolutely focused on in all of my leadership roles in 39 years have been education and reentry. My grandfather told me, when you free your mind, the rest will follow. And he didn't say it quite that eloquently, if you've heard that statement before. And helping people return to their families, being fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, post-incarceration. Reentry is not about where you've been, it's about where you're going. And I look forward to talking about that and maybe setting the stage of what we're doing nationally with all these wonderful folks to just really focus on reentry. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Renard Brooks. I'm the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, responsible for programs, treatment, and reentry. Now that's a mouthful, but it encompasses a lot, and we're going to get into what that encompasses, I'm sure, later in the conversation. But I've been in this role for 9 months. I came back to the state of Maryland because I originally retired in September of 2011 after 36 years with this department. Went to the mayor's office, and it was so nice to see one of the young ladies in the audience come to me and say, Mr. Brooks, you did a lot with much of nothing when you were with the mayor's office to create reentry programs in Baltimore City. So that was supposed to be a 1-year stint contractually, it ended up being 7 years. And I was so proud that we were able to get reentry housing vouchers for those who were suffering from mental illness and substance abuse and released into homelessness to get 250 people who were being released back to the community housing. I think my first idea of reentry started in 1988 when I left the psychiatric hospitals because they were depopulating the hospitals and putting them in the communities in Maryland. And I went to work for the women's prison in Jessup. That was my first introduction into the public safety arena. And I saw ladies getting out and coming back, getting out and coming back. Because even though it was 850 people there, you get to know them and you look up and you say, you're back again? So what is it that is wrong that you cannot stay out? What do you need? What can we do to help you? So that was really my first taste of wanting to get into reentry. And after I retired as the assistant commissioner for pretrial detention service in Baltimore City, where I really dabbled in the whole reentry realm and helped create a strategy specifically for the Baltimore City Detention Center, is where God has led me to this path forward. I tell people I retired 4 times and God touched my spirit to come back this time because I was at the Baltimore County as the deputy director of the detention center, and I turned them down for a whole year and kept saying no. But the director would not fill the position. She kept praying and praying that I would say yes. I finally heard God touch my spirit. I went back December of, 19? 2 months later, COVID hit, and we rode that wave from then up until 9 months ago when I came back here. So, thank you for inviting me.
All right, let's go to some, by way of public announcement, we had the commissioner from Maine that was supposed to be part of the panel, and this storm that's taken the country, he got snowed in, and I really wanted him to be here because he employs inmates behind the walls that's doing coding and making livable wages. You know, because as we have this discussion, I really believe our correctional systems have to reimagine corrections. We can't do things the same old way and expect different results. So I think we have to push the system to understand that it has to change. And it's gonna need dynamic and powerful leaders that's willing to step out on faith and do the right things to make sure that every person they touch, right, every person they touch have a true opportunity for restoration, right, given a platform based on faith. So I know, I've known Mr. Jeffries for many, in fact, we just, we've been doing this stuff, hanging out, talking about the work, because you have to be around like-minded people. This work is stressful at times, you have all these individuals' lives that you're entrusted. And so I know you just made the move. I wonder what did you drink to make you move to Nebraska, but nothing against Nebraska. But I was really hoping, and I hope he wouldn't mind me.
Don't say it.
Okay, don't say it, okay. But he decided to go to Nebraska, so you haven't been there long. But I think sometimes when you go to a new agency, you have the opportunity to frame a new pathway or a new culture or expectation. So why don't you share in 1 or 2 minutes, what are some of the things you have begin to implement, to change the trajectory of what's going on in Nebraska?
Well, I think I still got an extra 2 minutes because I yielded a couple minutes in the front end, right?
Well, I don't know. We're going to have to deal with that. But, you can negotiate like you always do.
So, once again, one of the things that it's very important going into a new agency, and I'll just use a little bit of a real quick background on some of the innovativeness that's been happening through Ohio and Illinois, which prepared me when I went into went into Nebraska, because you know what you're looking for then. So Ohio was my baseline, right? We've done some innovative work, Bernice Robinson and Doc over here, we did some great work in Ohio with being very bold and aggressive with taking offenders who were close to release out to the community in college, in workshops and work fairs. So we were doing that stuff, never been done before. So that innovativeness and that aggressiveness was always there. Fast forward, I was able to work for the governor over there in Illinois, and they never had a reentry center. So we created a reentry center. So with that, we repurposed some funding, repurposed some staff, and what have you. And what that became is a centralized area which provided the resources, the information, and the mission for what the agency is supposed to do. And it also became a connection for the community partners or who to reach to be able to provide those services for. That was very key, right? And so we created the first reentry council, what have you, over there in Illinois Department of Corrections. And so that is currently still going on, so I'm very proud of that. Through that work and through COVID, we were able to reduce the population from 38,000 to 27,000, which is still currently going on today. We right-sized the parole, because that's important too. We'll talk a little bit about how important parole and probation is on this reentry effort, because that is 35 to 40% of our intake nationally. So it's important that this work we're doing right here is also involving those particular agencies. So we right-sized parole. We reduced that parole population by 20% as well too. The recidivism rate in Illinois is reduced by 2% as a result of that work that we put in place, and I'm very, very proud of the work over in Illinois. So moving forward, that prepared me of what to look for going into Nebraska. How much time I got left?
I'll give you a minute.
Give me a minute. And so going to Nebraska, they had the framework already in place, right? So it was about, the other piece that's important, not just the probation and parole in the community, is also involving other state departments, other cabinet members. So that was my focus going into Nebraska, making sure that the other cabinet members know their role into reentry and corrections, and not just a correctional agency being responsible for the success of everybody. This is a state responsibility. So we got other cabinet members involved. We got, license, all the good stuff that's going on. The other piece that I want to just mention that it's important when you start talking about other state partners and everything is think about the children who are impacted by incarcerated parents and those folks who have children incarcerated and their parents, impacted by the family services and who also incarcerated. Think about that. Now, you got to be bold, but you got to start that connection before they get released. Because by the time you get out into the community, it takes a long time. It takes 6 to 9 months before they can get reconnected because they got to go through programming and all that stuff. So I would encourage that part to be part of the reentry efforts to make sure that the families and the children are engaged prior to the release. And with that, with the grace of God and staying within your garment, sir, I'll still continue to do the good work that you expect me to do, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. So as you can tell, right? We gotta be the messenger of hope, right? And I'm hoping that everyone that I engage, we're gonna continue to build. We started the directors panel last year because I believe they not being present here is a disservice to y'all. Because when you're incarcerated, they tell you when to wake up, they tell you what programs you gotta take. And if we can get them to be sensitive, and I think everybody here, so the question I wanted to direct Director Testament, because she's sort of an incubator, and a lot of things that she's gonna be able to do, it was not started in a very small, because her population is small, so she can do it. But I see that expanding. At some point, we're gonna have to adopt it because we have to be able to scale to meet the needs of the people that we serve. We can't do the things that we do and think we're gonna get, the classroom, we can't do stuff in classrooms. In any prison, there's about 4 classrooms, right? So if you only, programming 80 people and you got 2,000 people, how long is it gonna take to really have touch somebody's life? So Wynnie, why don't you tell us a little bit about the program you're using with virtual reality, both from a trade perspective, and now you got the ability to benefit, and now you got the high school diploma program. Why don't you share a little bit about that with the audience?
He's said it all. I
Questions are longer than answers.
don't know. No, definitely in the Virgin Islands, we're definitely proud to be.
Can you hear? I don't know. If you, okay, I just want to make sure that I know you can
Can you
speak
hear
up
me?
because when you want Carl Holder to run for you, your voice is not that meek and mild. So let's let's hear that voice.
So in the Virgin Islands, we're definitely doing things outside of the norm. When the individuals come in, we assess them, see where they are, and we meet them where they are. You know, everybody learn at different paces, different stages. Everybody have different traumas that they're dealing with. So we definitely meet them where they are. And through those assessments, then we're able to place them. And we also ask them, what is it you would like to do? You know, not what is it we want them to do, but what is it you would like to do? So in doing those assessments, we came up with some programs. I must say that when I got there, we had a budget for reentry education for the inmates was $10,000. It's like, how could you do anything for anyone with $10,000? You know, I can proudly say today we have increased that to $100,000. Plus, we also write grants. I have Peter Abrams, who's my assistant director over support services. Peter, raise your hand, show us stand up. I call Peter my Google. Whatever I need when it comes to programming and anything, he is the one that makes it all happen. But he writes grants, and we were able to receive up to $2.5 million, and that's just a roundabout figure, to be able to do those things, because in the Virgin Islands, the general fund, that's how correction is funded, and our main industry is tourism. So of course, you know, it's not a priority. It's a priority, but then again, it's not a priority, if you understand that, when it comes to corrections. So we do a lot of our things through funding grant money that we write for. However, we were able to, we meet some interesting folks, some very nice people over there, promising people. They came to the Virgin Islands, and they did a demonstration for me with the virtual, whatever you call those things. I thought, you know, I'm not a tech baby, but the virtual glasses, that's what I'll call it. And I was really, really impressed. And we took it into the jail and the prison there, and the inmates were they were just phenomenal. I think that it's a video now that's out that they're utilizing to promote it. I was just blown away, and the individuals are learning. The retention rate is unbelievable. So that's another way to reach, because I believe you have to be relatable. We can't teach the individuals based on, you know, just going in a classroom, standing up there talking. They don't receive it. Most of them don't receive that information like that. But I feel if you're relatable, you know, video games, that type of setting, they more so relate, and they more so could understand, and they learn at their own pace also. In addition to the virtual reality training, we also have the tablets. That allows them to learn at their own pace, because many times some of them read on a different level, and they are ashamed to say in front of their, you know, their peers. So this way they're able to work at their own pace, and they can't go on to another model until they have mastered the first model. But nobody knows that other than themselves and the teacher. So that's good. And we also know that in corrections, when it comes to staffing, I don't know if you all have staffing issues, but in the Virgin Islands, we have staffing issues. Yes, it's a beautiful place to come, you know, and work. However, we have challenges recruiting individuals. So many times programs suffer because of that. So by enlisting these different venues that we utilize, we don't have to really worry too much on staffing. The individuals could take the tablets, they go back to their rooms, they're in the individual units, and they could work without us worrying about whether we have staffing to provide, you know, for the classroom instructions. What else we have? We also have the horse program, the equine program. We're really, really excited about the equine therapy program. We found that horse therapy helps the individuals. It teaches them trust. It teaches them to deal with conflict. It teaches them so many things, but in addition to that, it also teaches them how to take care of the animals so that when they get out, they're able to learn, they're able to earn a living wage, you know, because horse racing, horses in the Caribbean is a big thing. In the Caribbean. What else we do? We also created a first reentry council. When we got there was no reentry anything. We created a manual. So it grew from 3 people, Peter, myself, and Dr. McGrath, to now we have senators and all different type of stakeholders now on the reentry council, because we believe that individuals coming out, you need to have wraparound services, because what we have found is that when individuals ready to come out, there's nowhere for them to go. You know, there's a lot of different things that they need. So for Bureau of Corrections in the Virgin Islands, we start prepping them to return to the community 18 months prior to being released, where they may need their documents, whether it's birth certificate, social security, housing. Also, I need to say, we just had our ribbon cutting for our first transition home. We're so excited about that. Yes. Transition home is a big thing in the territory because, again, many times individuals come out of jail, prison, they have nowhere to go. We're a very small community. Everybody knows everybody, but sometimes because of what you have done, you know, no one wants to associate with you. And many times they end up going out and coming right back in because they have nowhere to go. So we're proud to say that we now have a transition home. So there's a lot of different things, like Mr. Holder stated, that we're doing down in the Caribbean. And we hope that if any one of y'all looking for any jobs, that you're more than welcome to come to the Virgin Islands. Thank you.
The director is going to be here, right? So you can find out how if you want to move to St. Croix or St. Thomas. I think the 2 wardens are here. So
yes, and I have the 2 wardens here, yes. Warden Grant and Warden Miles. Raise your hands so they can see you all. And it's the first ever in the Virgin Islands you have females as a director and the wardens. The first time ever.
So let's take it to a different level. I believe when I had the distinct honor of being the warden or co-manager of the largest federal prison, and I recognize that if we put faith at the beginning of everything we do, we see a different transformation taking place. And you know, in our business, as you know, I don't want to share my age, but you know, we was afraid to talk about our faith, you know, because it was taboo. If you know, so the question that I have, I saw it work for me, and I saw what took place, and I want to ask I think as an agency that's leading the way, how are you gonna share with your members why faith plays an important role in the whole reentry and reintegration? Because I believe if we can start changing the heart, then we change the mind, and then it has a rippling effect. So why don't you just share? I know we had a brief discussion about you want to make that at the forefront as the new leader of the American Correctional Association. Just give us the executive version of how you see that, you know, how you see in communicating and shifting the mindset. Because let's believe it, we all know that's been in this system. They don't like change, right? It takes they like to do